Welcome to When the Womb Speaks, a podcast created by the Sanctuary of Sophia. Hi, I'm Angie Twydall, founder of the Sanctuary of Sophia, and joining me is my co-creator Kerry Dawes, a womb practitioner, facilitator and priestess. In these sacred conversations, we open space to listen deeply to the wisdom of women's wombs. Because when the womb speaks, we listen.
So, hi, welcome to the pilot episode of When the Womb Speaks. And I'm Kerry Dawes, and I'm with the founder of the Sanctuary of Sophia today, Angie Twydall. And Angie and I are just going to have a short chat today, just for the pilot, for a test pilot episode today, just to give you some information about what you can expect to hear on this podcast in future episodes. So welcome, Angie.
Oh, thank you so much, Kerry. It's so lovely to hear your voice.
Yeah. And so we're just giving out some information on this very exciting new project with the Sanctuary of Sophia. And I'm really interested to know what it was that inspired you to do this podcast.
Oh, that's a great first opening question, Kerry. Thank you. For me, I really feel that women's stories of their womb need to be heard. There's so much that still isn't shared, and there's so much that is deep within us that needs to be heard. So there's the stories of pain, the stories of grief, which are heavy and painful to listen to and hear. But there's also the wisdom of the ancestors of our motherline that can come through. And I think at this time in all our lives, we need more hope, more support, and more love. And that's really what this podcast is here for.
Okay. So we're going to be bringing on lots of different women who have worked through the sanctuary, who have trained with the sanctuary, and we're going to be hearing their stories as healers, as well as their own personal womb healing stories as well. And we were just discussing as well, there might be some specials on goddesses, talking about different goddesses, and in particular with me, the dark goddesses.
I mean, obviously, not obviously, but the Sanctuary of Sophia, the overarching goddess there is Sophia. And she's one of those goddesses who isn't necessarily talked about or known about very much. So I'd love to chat about her sometime and why the sanctuary was named after her rather than Isis, Ceridwen, or any of the others. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've mentioned some of the trainings that people are going to hear about on the podcast. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that? What different healing modalities do you teach in the Sanctuary of Sophia?
Well, the main one is the shamanic womb massage. That was the very first training that I was qualified to put out there, with the blessing of the teacher who taught me. Actually, I weaved in the sacral abdominal massage teachings, which come from the Avigo teachings from South America originally, and I weaved in all my shamanic skills and wisdom there, and the priestessing skills. So it's a weave, it's a braided thread of wisdom for the shamanic womb massage. And very quickly after that, the womb healing with tuning forks came in, because where I was having a lot of women coming for womb massage, a lot of them had trauma and couldn't be touched. And there's a whole story. We can do another podcast on how those tuning forks were birthed and came into being. But all of these ones are in person, 3-day events. So yeah, womb healing with tuning forks, crystals for the womb. That's a beautiful, magical 3-day training, front of the womb and back of the womb. And the introductory one, which really doesn't need any prerequisites to come on, is the womb wrapping, which is my word for closing of the bones. As a birth doula, I was trained in that with Maddie Mahon from Developing Doulas. And then I went on with my clients to use it for different transitions in their life. So, not just postpartum after giving birth, but for miscarriage, for abortion, for hysterectomy, for any womb grief, as we call it within the sanctuary, but also several women who are going through the menopause and maybe their children had left home, that empty nest feeling, to bring themselves back to their core, to come back to them where they've been sort of lost in it all. So that's the womb wrapping. And then there's sacred anointing, which is using sacred oils from the Maya 4 lineage. And many of my students have gone on to do further trainings of their own in that, which is fantastic. So, what do we do with sacred oils? How do we anoint? What makes it special? And then, an absolute key training for any therapist working with the womb is yoni steaming. And I work with all my clients and encourage all my students who are practitioners to work with every single woman with a yoni steam first before any modality, because you can really see how they react, see how they journey, and really get to know them on a etheric and energetic level when you journey with them for yoni steams.
Great. So I will be interviewing hopefully, all of the associate teachers with the sanctuary. So we'll probably be going even deeper into each of the trainings in future episodes. I'm curious to know, so you were mentioning the shamanic aspect of a lot of the work. So for listeners who are not sure what shamanic work entails, can you give a very, very brief overview of what you mean by the
Yeah,
shamanic
sure,
aspects?
of course, Kerry. I mean, a lot of people are probably familiar with the Wheel of the Year. There's a pagan Wheel of the Year, Buddhist Wheel of the Year, First Nations Wheel of the Year. So the wheel has elements on, and the elements are in different, what we call cardinal points, different directions on it. So for the shamanic way of the womb, we work with the womb medicine wheel. It's a map, a template, and the shamanic aspect is where we draw and learn about the elements in relation to the client we're working with. So, for example, someone might be very much an air client, so have lots of ideas, but not be able to ground them and manifest them. So, as a therapist, we then work on the opposite element. So, for air, it would be earth to help ground them and to bring them really into their body. So, that's the shamanic aspect, really, is working with the elements rather than just calling in a deity from the priestess side of things.
Mm, okay. And one more thing I'd like to ask you about. I know that you don't just work exclusively with women. So would you like to share a little bit about your most recent training that you
Yeah.
had there?
Well, after Goddess Conference last year in 2025, which was the Healing Wheel of Goddess, um, for for everyone really, we have men and women come to the Goddess Conference, but particularly after that conference, I had a lot of men come up to me and said, "What do you do for men?" And I thought, "Oh, what do I do for men?" And it really set the wheels in motion for healing the wastelands, which is the Avalonian myths and tradition of sovereignty of the land and the land not being in right relationship with the king, the masculine, and the barren wastelands come in because that's the way the myth and reality happens. So I spent some time crafting a training with my husband Rod on healing the wastelands. It was a 6 week course for men to look at the different aspects of the knave, the knight, the lover, the king, the sage. And yeah, there's a whole year's training there, but the 6 week one it was very interesting because it included men, it included women who wanted to learn about the masculine aspect so they could work with men, but also couples coming together. So yeah, very, very interesting.
Mm. So you mentioned with the men you work with the Hara and you work with the archetypes of the knave, the knight, and the king. So I thought we should mention that with the women, we work with the maiden, the mother, and crone on the womb medicine wheel, and then all of the different elements as well. So
Yeah, they've both the masculine and feminine, solar, lunar, use whatever words fit right to
mm,
you as you're listening. Um, but yeah, in my world, the female body has the overlay of the shamanic way of the womb medicine wheel, which includes exactly what you said, Kerry, all the different womb gates, and the masculine has the symbol of the sword, which the way it works is like a wheel, but the symbol is the sword, and it's the sword of union, not a sword of battle or a sword to do harm. It's a sword of truth and a sword of sacred union.
yeah, and I've been lucky enough to witness you actually doing some work with a gentleman at your retreat in May, which was just so moving. It was really moving to watch and to witness. Yeah, it was incredible.
Thank you, Kerry. I think when we're in ceremony, and I think that's what you're referring to, I actually laid down, I have my own sword
Yeah,
and I use it ceremonially, and I laid it down over the womb altar mat. So the masculine and feminine come in together and calling to the men to soften, to put their arms down, and for the women to be love and to surrender to that healing that's so needed for both of us, for all of us. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was beautiful. Um, so yeah, thanks, Angie. Um, I'd just like to mention as well. You mentioned the Goddess Conference. So what I will do is I'll get the website of the Goddess Conference, and I'll put that in the show notes for anyone whose interest was piqued in hearing those words, Goddess Conference, because that's a whole kettle of fish in itself, and it's just amazing. And I was there from the first time this year, and it was just absolutely incredible.
It's
Um,
incredible. I mean, 30 years of running, 30 years of growing and bringing together goddess loving people in community. It takes a lot of work, of course it
yeah,
does, and it has to change to be sustainable.
mm,
So, yeah, this year, Katinka and Marion, who have been running it for 9 years together, announced the change of structure. And it's changing into a CIC, a community interest company, working with circles, which they have been for many, many years. So no hierarchy. So working in circles with the team, and I'm delighted that I'm one of the directors of that CIC, so I can give my input into helping move it forward and make it sustainable for all those who come after us.
yeah, it's very exciting, and it's such an amazing event to be part of.
Mm.
Yeah, I was
It was,
actually quite overwhelmed with, and I can only imagine how much work must go into the preparation and the planning for something like that, because the scale of it is just enormous, and the depth of the ceremonies
mm,
was just absolutely stunning. I really was blown away by it. Obviously, I've
mm.
seen the pictures and the videos on Facebook, but you just can't get the full extent of everything that goes on unless you're there
Yeah,
and
you have
immersed
to
in it.
actually come and experience
It's
big
such an
ceremonies.
immersive
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, wonderful. So it's exciting. Yeah. So anyone who's interested in finding out more about the Goddess Conference, that I'll put a link to the website in the show notes, and I'll put a link to your website, the Sanctuary of Sophia, and of course, there's a very exciting project that you've been working on recently as well, Angie. What else would you like to talk about?
Oh, I mean, during lockdown, I started writing. And I started writing my book, The Shamanic Way of the Womb, and that was published this year through the Sanctuary of Sophia Publishing. So it's self-published as well. So I feel really proud of that I'm sovereign of that work. It hasn't gone into anyone else's hands. It hasn't been, I haven't been told you've got to have this cover or re-edit it and move things around. So those of you who, have published on Amazon or through a publishing house will know that, your content can be really changed. And I'm really delighted that I stuck to my guns. It took a long time. There's a lot of work in writing a book with editing and a team of support, but it's out there as a self-help book for women, and also my story, what got me doing this work. And so that was during lockdown. And also during lockdown, we obviously couldn't do any of our trainings, our in-person trainings. So I wrote, I made the decision I've got to put it online. And that was the 13 Moon Apprenticeship, which has been running now for 5 years. And that has just been upgraded to a new platform, Kajabi, which is much more user friendly and can hold a lot more different trainings. So I'm very excited for that rebirth that happens in October this year.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for you, isn't it?
Yeah, there's
Lots of
lots going
change
on.
and lots of evolution going on within the sanctuary. It's very exciting. So yeah, I think for our pilot, that's a good introduction. I've given our listeners a good feel for what's to come, and we'll be releasing the first episode, episode 1, officially. The next episode will be coming out in October, at the beginning of October, and I'll be inviting one of my womb sisters on to talk about her womb journey. So we look forward to that, and thank you so much, Angie, for coming on today to talk about this amazing podcast. And thank you, sending my gratitude to you for inviting me to be the host of this podcast, because it's so exciting for me to be doing this work. And thank you for trusting me
Oh,
with
I think
it.
someone needs to interview you, Kerry, and find out why it means so much to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really happy to do that another time.
Okay. All
Well,
right
thank
then,
you
my
everyone
love.
for listening. Catch up with the
Yeah.
next
Thank you.
time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us in this sacred space of When the Womb Speaks. If you felt something stir, soften, or awaken within, we invite you to share this episode and leave a review. May these stories continue to awaken the healing within you, to speak your truth with courage, and to walk in wisdom and grace. May you remember the power of your own womb's ancient song. You can find us at sanctuaryofsophia.co.uk and on social media. Until next time, keep listening to your womb. She's always speaking.